It had been reported that CM Punk allegedly lunged at AEW president Tony Khan during the Backstage incident at AEW All In at London's Wembley Stadium last weekend. But new reporting has suggested that the lunging was actually far more serious than previously reported, hence why Tony Khan said he felt that his life was threatened, leading to Phil Brooks' termination from All Elite Wrestling. Details on that, plus the All Elite Wrestling originals in the Elite recently signed new contracts, and according to a new report, that's when CM Punk also decided that he wanted out of AEW. We've also got details on the internal investigation that led to CM Punk's firing by Tony Khan. Also details on a meeting that took place prior to AEW Collision last night to explain the incident in question that happened at All In, as well as the rationale behind Tony Khan's decision to fire CM Punk. Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez have been very influential throughout this entire year-long process of back and forth and reports, articles, etc. And they've now opened up, suggesting that they were being too nice to CM Punk with their reporting. Details on that, plus there is now uncertainty after a tag team title change last night at Payback about a future upcoming title defense. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling, and we're getting more and more details regarding CM Punk's exit from All Elite Wrestling, the incident in question last weekend at AEW All In at London's Wembley Stadium, Tony Khan's perception that his life was threatened, hence why he fired CM Punk. Plenty more details on this. Let's get straight into really the biggest bit of news to come out today, and that is that the reports that CM Punk lunged at Tony Khan was actually far more serious than originally reported. Of course, CM Punk is no longer with All Elite Wrestling as the promotion terminated his contract following his physical altercation with Jack Perry before the main card of last Sunday's AEW All In pay-per-view event at London's Wembley Stadium in the UK. Now, as previously reported, Punk had a heated confrontation with AEW President Tony Khan after the situation and threatened to quit the promotion in the moments after the incident. During the outburst, monitors reportedly fell on Tony Khan as well. Now, while speaking on Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez discussed the situation, and Meltzer noted that he actually toned down the wording of Punk lunging at AEW President Tony Khan at All In, as it was actually much more than just that. Now, this would line up with Tony Khan saying at Collision last night in front of the live crowd in Chicago at the United Center, and on a pre-recorded message prior to the AEW Collision broadcast, that he feared for his safety whilst addressing the situation at Collision. This is what Meltzer and Brian Alvarez had to say. Starting off with Brian Alvarez, he said, quote, he being Tony Khan, said the incident was regrettable. It endangered people backstage. That includes production. My security, safety, and life were in danger at a wrestling show. I don't feel anyone should feel that way at work. I don't think the people I work with should feel that way. I had to make a very difficult choice today, so there had been, and I think you put it in the Observer, the stories about when the whole thing went down, people said that he lunged at Tony. Well, Meltzer then continued by saying, it was probably stronger than that. Lunging was, again, far too kind. If you saw the actual wording of what was said, lunging was like I was toning it down. It was more than lunging, which again was very interesting. Alvarez then responded by saying, and I heard that when he moved towards Tony, whatever word you want to use, that the monitors there were like monitors that fell on Tony Khan. As you noted, there was security camera footage, so this was not something people were like, well, how come there wasn't security camera footage of the brawl? Well, it's because that was inside a locker room. They don't have cameras in that locker room, but this was in Gorilla, and they had cameras all over the place. Meltzer then responded by saying, quote, well, I mean, the Gorilla setup is at Wembley, where they have that. It's where they do interviews and things like that for soccer games, football all the time, and other sports and other entertainment. So yes, there's always cameras in that. It was in a position where there's always cameras running. So that was there. This one had a lot of witnesses. The other one had some witnesses. This one had a lot of witnesses. Alvarez then responded by saying, well, the thing with the first one was that there were a small number of people in the room, but as soon as everything happened, then a whole bunch of people came into the room. There weren't a whole bunch of people in the room when it began. Whereas this one, there were people all over the place. Meltzer then said, not just wrestlers, there were production people, you had witnesses. Alvarez then said, all over the place, and it was filmed. This was a tough one to claim, you know. Meltzer then concluded by saying, and there were unaffiliated people. I mean, I think probably the best description was the one, it's in the Observer, you know. I mean, we got the Jack Perry story, we got the Phil Brooks story, okay, so they're both there. But the third story, and there's a couple of other stories, but the key one was the unaffiliated non-wrestler story. That is what I would call, I don't know, the most reliable, but it's neither party, but it's someone who saw it, and it's a non-wrestler. It's not someone who has any stakes in the game or part of either clique or anything close to that. It's just someone who was there working, as many people were, and saw what happened, and other people that were also there. But I'll get into that later this week. So, certainly there, the suggestion is from Brian Alvarez and Dave Meltzer that this lunging that was initially reported was far more serious than first said. Does this mean that CM Punk tried to attack Tony Khan? Or, again, is this Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez exaggerating things? Of course, Brian Alvarez was the person who broke the story about Miro and CM Punk having a confrontation or nearly a second fight, and then that was very quickly debunked by both Miro, by CM Punk, by Sean Ross Sapp, and others. So what do you make of the reports that possibly the lunging that CM Punk did at the AEW president was far more serious than previously reported? And does that actually line up with Tony Khan's words that he felt that his life was in danger? Now, to kind of get more of a timeline on this whole situation, of course, recently, the Elite all re-signed multi-year contracts with All Elite Wrestling, Kenny Omega, Young Bucks, and Hangman Adam Page, which some considered surprising considering that CM Punk had just come back to the company. Of course, CM Punk is no longer a part of AEW, and there are some people that think he wanted out of the company when the Elite decided to stay with All Elite Wrestling. It was big news at the start of August when AEW announced that the Elite, the foursome of Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, and Hangman Adam Page, had re-signed with All Elite Wrestling on new long-term contracts. The company celebrated the news, while some fans may have wondered how CM Punk felt about it as well. After all, it was well known that the Elite and CM Punk didn't get along, and they don't like each other, going back to last year's all-out brawl out between Punk and Omega and the Young Bucks in his dressing room. There was also the Hangman Page promo issues with Punk in the past as well. Prior to his AEW TV return in June, CM Punk did an interview with ESPN where he said that Hangman, quote, poisoned everything in their spring 2022 feud. On Saturday, a few hours before AEW Collision aired, AEW CEO and General Manager Tony Khan announced that CM Punk had been fired for his latest backstage incident with Jack Perry at AEW All In last Sunday. Tony said he was in fear for his life because of Punk's actions that day. Apparently, as we just spoke about, Punk did more than just lunge at the AEW president to put fear into him. While speaking about the AEW and CM Punk situation on Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer commented that some people believed that Punk wanted out of the company when he learned about the Elite re-signing with AEW. It turns out, obviously, that Punk ended up being gone from the company about just 1 month after that. Here's what he said, quote, I can't say that because I can't get into his brain, but yes, there were a lot of people that thought that when the contract was signed with the Young Bucks, Omega, and Page, that he wanted out and that something was going to happen. He thought that because the ratings for Collision were so much lower, I think the one was the bad one when MJF and Cole came and ratings skyrocketed, and when they weren't back, they went back down. That was the one that established that Max and Adam Cole are the draws in the company. It's going to go down without him. He was the biggest draw on that show. So again, what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on the narrative that maybe CM Punk wants... he found out that the Elite was staying, he felt that his days were numbered and he didn't want to be around anymore. But then again, there are reports that there was a sit-down meeting planned to hash things out, but that was cancelled on the Elite side of things last week prior to All In. Now, a lot of people are asking about the investigation. Tony Khan spoke about this, the investigation that led to CM Punk's firing and the disciplinary committee as well. And further details have now been revealed regarding AEW's investigation into CM Punk. Obviously, last night saw AEW officially announce the termination of Punk's contract, citing an investigation into an incident that occurred at Wembley Stadium on August 27, with multiple reports claiming that there was some kind of physical clash between Punk and former FTW champion Jack Perry. During the most recent episode of Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer revealed that on top of present witnesses of said incident, there were also names interviewed for the investigation regarding the details that led to the incident, amongst other things. things. Here's what Dave Meltzer had to say regarding this investigation and some details heading into it. He said, quote, "I know people who were interviewed that were not there, and it was just about background, just the history and things like that." Brian Alvarez then followed up on this, noting that questions were asked over how things had changed over the last year since the infamous Brawl Out incident, with the company seeking advice on what the optimal solution would be to the issues that have occurred since then. He said, quote, "They were asked how things were changed over the last year and what they thought the solution to the problems would be. A lot of the questions not related to the actual incident, but to all of the incidents and everything that happened over the past year." Meltzer then clarified that whilst ultimately the decision to fire CM Punk came down to his involvement in the recent incident, the company's decision makers considered far more than just the most recent events, including many details that have yet to surface in reports that have been posted online. Meltzer said, quote, "He got fired over what happened Sunday, but the lawyers and everyone else, they talked about a lot more than Sunday. They talked about everything, the stuff that's come out, lots of stuff that hasn't come out." So certainly it begs the question, what hasn't come out regarding this incident? What hasn't come out? What hasn't made it to light? Are these details that we just spoke about suggesting that CM Punk did far more than just lunge at the AEW president? Is there more damning details that are going to come out? And is that why CM Punk was fired, but also fired with cause, according to the AEW president? Now, as far as last night as well, when it comes to Collision, obviously it was a big topic backstage, and Brian Alvarez also opened up about how it was explained to AEW talent backstage at Collision. He said on Wrestling Observer Radio, quote, "I don't have a lot of details about what happened, but there was a meeting before the show, AEW Collision last night, and everybody was told what happened," Brian Alvarez said. So again, essentially, there was a backstage meeting last night to kind of explain, indeed, everything that had gone down. But this is the really interesting part of all of this as well, is because lots of people, when they trace this back, they trace it back to an original story that involved reports suggesting that CM Punk was looking to get Colt Cabana fired from AEW, and the Elite's problems with the suggestion that he was looking to get Colt Cabana fired. And the rumor was that that was stories that were put out there by Dave Meltzer, even though Dave Meltzer has denied he put out there those kind of stories. Well, Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez certainly have been accused of being too harsh or being biased when it comes to their reporting over CM Punk over the past 12 months. And now that CM Punk is gone from AEW, they believe that they've been too nice when it comes to their reporting about him. Here's what they said. This is fascinating. They said, quote, and this was what actually Dave Meltzer said, "Throughout this whole ordeal, you, Brian Alvarez, and I were far too kind to him. I mean, that's the reality. We were far too kind to him. I always gave him the benefit of the doubt. I always tried to give his side what everyone didn't want to hear. They just wanted to go, oh, you're after him." So that begs the question, do you agree with Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez? Were they far too nice and kind to CM Punk over the past 12 months? Or do you believe this is revisionist history from Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez? Let me know your thoughts about that as well. Finally, of course, last night at Payback, we saw brand new undisputed WWE Tag Team Champions. But the title change has actually led to a lot of confusion about an upcoming tag team title match. Following Payback, there's been some uncertainty cast on an upcoming title match. Of course, WWE will visit India on September 8th for the second ever Superstar Spectacle event. It was previously announced that Indian stars Sangha and Veer Mahan of Indus Sher will face off against Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, with the Undisputed Tag Team Championships on the line. This match currently cannot go on ahead as advertised, as Owens and Zayn are no longer champions. The duo dropped the gold to Finn Balor and Damian Priest of the Judgment Day at Payback, with the Judgment Day stars winning the Steel City Street Fight for the gold. It's currently unclear whether this match will go ahead as a non-title bout, or if Owens and Zayn will officially be replaced by the Judgment Day for the title match. Another possibility is that WWE could instead hold a Balor and Priest versus Owens and Zayn versus Mahan and Sangha three-way bout for the tag team titles, but ultimately, as of right now, nothing has been confirmed. The only way that this match can go ahead as originally advertised is if Owens and Zayn win their gold back before Friday. As of this recording, WWE hasn't shared any update on the match right now, so again, we'll kind of have to wait and see indeed what happens. But there you go, guys. That's the latest news when it comes to pro wrestling. Be sure to smash the like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe bottom right-hand corner. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.